Olá, eu sou a Solange Mel. Sejam bem-vindos ao podcast Dança em Diálogos, um espaço dedicado ao diálogo entre a criação artística e a performance, onde a dança e a coreografia encontram novas formas de comunicar. Estejam preparados para explorar novas perspectivas sobre a dança, descobrir intérpretes, criadores, corpos, ideias em movimento. E diálogos, claro. Neste episódio do Dança em Diálogos, conversamos com Silvia Rijmer, bailarina, coreógrafa, investigadora e professora com um percurso internacional que atravessa escolas de excelência, companhias de repertório e contextos de criação colaborativos. Falámos sobre os anos de formação em escolas como a Juilliard, em Nova Iorque, e a Dutch National Ballet Academy, e sobre o percurso profissional que a levou a dançar em companhias na Suíça, Alemanha, Países Baixos e Portugal. Abordámos as experiências marcantes com coreógrafos e a forma como essas colaborações moldaram o seu olhar sobre a criação. Conversámos também sobre o presente, o seu trabalho como professora na Escola Superior de Dança, o papel da pedagogia no seu percurso e a investigação que tem desenvolvido na interseção entre dança, cognição e inteligência artificial, nomeadamente através do Body Logic Method e do projeto Bodily Futures. Hi, Silvia. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation to be in our podcast, Dança em Diálogos.
Thank you, Solange. I'm really happy to be here.
So let's start. Silvia, your path through dance is as rich as it is multifaceted. You trained at prestigious institutions like the Dutch National Ballet Academy, Elmhurst Ballet School, and the Juilliard School in New York, where you pursued and completed your Bachelor of Fine Arts Studies.
Yes.
Later in Lisbon, you completed a Master's in Dance Teaching and a specialist title from the Instituto Politécnico de Lisboa. As a performer, you danced professionally for nearly 2 decades in both large and small repertoire companies in the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and Portugal. Mm-hmm. You worked directly and indirectly with some of the most significant names in contemporary choreography, and you were nominated as Outstanding Young Dancer during your time with Staatstheater Bern Ballet. In Portugal, you've been deeply involved in the Portuguese dance scene, creating independently, assisting choreographers, and creatively collaborating with fellow dance artists and creators. You're now an assistant professor at Escola Superior de Dança, where you mentor both BA and MA students. And your current research bridges dance, cognition, and AI. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. I'm excited, and I hope you are excited as well.
Thrilled.
So shall we start?
Yes.
So Silvia, your training spans renowned institutions such as the Juilliard School, Elmhurst Ballet School, the Dutch National Ballet Academy. So what do you consider were the most defining influences in your early development?
Well, thank you, Solange, for that wonderful introduction.
You're welcome.
So nice to kind of go back in time with you. One tends to forget a little bit as one moves on in life, and kind of go through these stages again. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I don't know, thinking back now, I realized that, or as any one of us, right, we start in these places and we kind of progressively grow and change and evolve as we go from place to place. And I guess I was really lucky to be able to have wonderful parents who supported, and really,
very important.
It's really important to have the support system, and also to have a mother who was really appreciating the value of dance, right, and dance as part of education or life education. And so we were living in Kenya at the time, and in Kenya there was not much quality ballet teaching at the time. Mm-hmm. It's different now. But it was time for me to move on. So at 14, I was accepted into the Dutch National Ballet Academy, which was smaller at the time. Now it's, of course, bigger. But it was intensive, ballet training. It was really, introducing me to, what was necessary, the type of bodies and the kind of teaching, right, and languaging, and also meeting other dancers. I think this for me was really inspiring, meeting young dancers who were really loving the art of dance and fully committed.
Would you go and watch the company also at that time, like the performances?
Well, I was living outside of, so in Haarlem, a little bit away from Amsterdam.
So it was more complicated to go.
That's right. So I would wake up early in the morning at night, right? And I would take the train and then get into Amsterdam, and then I would finish at around 6, and I would find my way back home.
Yes,
and
this full day,
yes,
like focused
that's right.
training.
That's right.
Yeah.
With regular teaching, also regular education, also. So yes, intensive, challenging, just yes, full-bodied. And then Elmhurst was a completely different experience. I was older also. It's a boarding school, right? So you live together. Okay. Yes, that was intense. So you're really there at the school in the context of the place, and you're there
24 hours.
That's right. So there it was also really, nice teachers. I guess I was really like flamenco dancing, early modern dance, right? English style, and again, classical ballet with very...
So you started to open the possibilities of dance when you changed to Elmhurst, right? So
well,
you
yes,
had more
the
like
different colors, right? The different perspectives of it, the different styles. But so this is more European, right? So the English system of modern dance, I guess. And that was just, fun to meet other girls in this case, who were all in one room, and to bring the dance, but also to kind of play around, with other different styles, as you're saying, and to talk about it, right? To be able to, talk about what we've experienced.
Do you feel like you developed more companionship, like being in a boarding school?
Yes, there's a closeness for sure. Also, my age, I was 16, right? So the age, and we're still friends, still to this day. I mean, we still talk. How are you doing? So in terms of development, human development process, it was a really good moment to have the support, right? At the Dutch National, I was living with a family, so I didn't have that kind of support. So at Elmhurst, I had my friends to help me through, whatever challenges I was going through. And then Juilliard is just another, elevated experience in the sense that you're older. It's New York City. I mean, it's
Did you
fun.
choose to go there? Or you had different options and then...
Yes, at the time I was kind of playing around with Sarah Lawrence, Barnard, Juilliard, do I go into academics? I was interested in journalism. Do I still want to keep on dancing? Can I get in, right? I mean, this is a big school. Am I good enough? And so I got in, which was great. And then, so let's go, more American style, strong dancers. Different city, great colleagues, everybody working for themselves, really trying to, right? So there's all this kind of pressure also, right?
Of course.
Because we're in a city, in a country which has this incredible
history that never
sleeps.
Yes.
Right. So, modern dance techniques is right. So Lamont, Taylor, right, Humphrey, all that, and then mixed with the classical ballet, Americana style, Russian style,
and mixed with other artistic fields, right?
So yes, exactly. So very hybridized versions, right? So this was really cool to be able to go. So dancing is about self-discovery, right? What can you do? How can you build a technique? How can you build your body? And how is it relevant to the other, right? So to the other choreographers that I was working with.
So do you also think that the fact that you were in with different fields, somehow it developed the work you later on got interested into,
Yes.
as dance is not what it used to be anymore, right? It's a much more open field to also areas like theater, voice.
For sure, you're right. You're absolutely right, and thank you for that. So Juilliard was, interdisciplinary. You'd have the opera department, the theater department, and the dance, and we would have these kind of collective, coming together and making pieces together. I remember I worked with John Magnuson, who was a wonderful, or still is a wonderful composer, who also did a piece with, Carla Maxwell, who is now in the Le Monde Dance Company, or was, and she's now out of it. Oh God, time moves so quickly. But this interdisciplinary, maybe you also had that experience?
Yes, well, I did in Conservatorio. Actually, we were in different levels, so a little bit different of your experience, because in Conservatorio, we at the dance department was from 10 to 18,
right?
And in the music as well, but then cinema and theater was a college education,
right?
So I think it was even more interesting in the way that we would see the older students doing something that we were still very curious, very curious of what was going on, what were they doing, what are you going to do when you will be a grown up? God, this was hard. Also like have that perspective and be curiosity. I think it was the most what I got most out of this.
For sure.
Possibility of being with the other
That's right.
artistic fields.
And thinking about, what's contemporary today, right? We speak, we sing,
Yes.
There's musical introduction. So all of this working together creates a wonderful hub, right?
There's this buzz,
That's
this artistic connection between people. It's not just so segmented and in boxes. And for me, it was great, and I can imagine for you. Yes. So now let's just go through your professional career as a dancer, because you've also been like across many countries, especially in Europe, right? Because most of your professional dancing was in Europe.
Correct.
So also, what did each different context brought your added like another layer as a performer? Do you have this? Do you feel that this was in every context, in every company, in every country, you had like another layer as a performer?
Yes. So after Juilliard, kind of the the formative training, I was curious about theater, right? Theatrical approaches, less formal ways of thinking about dance or making dance, collaborative processes. And Europe, place of experimentation at the time, right? Where people were really exploring, researching movement. So I made my way back, and I worked in freelance dance companies, so really small ones, and also the medium-sized into larger ones, repertoire dance companies, author dance companies. So this kind of mix, I guess you could say, was kind of searching for a personal identity, maybe. Right. So one thing is learning at a school, applying, being able to transmit, adapt, all of these things. And another thing is really finding your creative or artistic identity. And I think in that sense, every company gives you little gifts, right? See if you can find your way in it. Is it your voice? Is it not your voice? What are you looking for also? And at the time, there was this possibility, where as a dancer, you could kind of travel through different places.
Do you feel that you become more generous? When I mean generous is, well, as a person, obviously, but also in the way you move.
Yes.
Because you experience these different dimensions, right? You were not just in this big company box, or just in a project box, or just in working with a choreographer. You were able to see and to live and to learn from these different realities.
Yes. And I say that I was lucky, right? Because it's not everybody's opportunity. It's very difficult to find work. And at the time, we didn't have internet, right? So it was really, it was by hearsay magazine, right? You get the magazines. So one thing is, I guess, working with somebody else or for somebody else. And one thing is to have the space and time to develop something by yourself, for yourself. And in one small company in Switzerland called Drift, I was the youngest one. They were all in their 40s already. I had there the opportunity to come up with ideas, to present ideas,
that's nice.
To sell my ideas to the others, to work on my own ideas. So in a very safe space with an incredible amount of support, I could say, right, I'd like to try this, would you do this with me? And, so having this place to investigate also, right, which in repertoire companies, as you know, there's never time for that.
It's much harder,
Right, unless you have like the young choreographers evenings where you have dancers and this, but there's always a limited time restriction on things. And then the natural progressive growth of each one of us, right? Our likes change as we get older, our needs change also.
So were this kind of like a medium-sized company where you felt more comfortable?
Well, the work was much more intense. I mean, I'm thinking about Burnt Ballet right now. It was Monday to Saturday, right? Saturday half days we had. It was connected to a Stadttheater, so we had also New Year's shows, right?
Oh, okay.
And triple bills, and I worked a lot in that company, but it was also the right time. 24, 25, 26.
The timing is very important.
Right? You feel, you're kind of, I felt like I was at the top of my game. So absolutely loved the experience and was able to meet incredible choreographers also there.
Yeah, this is very important. Feel inspired
and
also.
And at close range, right? Small company, to be able to have Kilian in the same studio, Stain Celis in the same studio, Jacob Budani in the same studio, right there. Yeah.
Wow. And so what brought you to Portugal? We talked many times, and I think we never had this in our conversation. How did you encounter like contemporary dancing?
Oh, well, Portugal was, on the radar. I mean, we'd heard about, Ballet Gulbenkian, the incredible dancers, the women dancers of Ballet Gulbenkian. Steen Sellis had told me about these beautiful dancers. So my radar was definitely there. But it's funny because I was dancing in a very small freelance dance company, and we were in Ruhrpott, in Germany, with Drift, and I had heard that Ida City was in the audience.
Oh, okay, that was a good event,
right? So I was like, oh my gosh, she's in the audience.
Ida City, the director of Ballet Gulbenkian at the time. Ida City Cardoso.
Right, and so this is interesting. Oh God, so eventually I was able to come here to Lisbon and audition, and she gave me quite an intensive audition of 1 week.
Okay.
All day, every day. And so yes, then she did not have a contract at the time, so I went back to Switzerland, and I worked with Bernd Ballet. And after a few years, I called her again. I said, Ida City, would you have a place for me there now?
After that intense week?
And she was like, oh yes, Sylvia, but actually I'm leaving. So it was just at that crossroads. And so when Paulo Ribeiro, whom you know well, took over the company, so I came in with Paulo Ribeiro, but under Ida City's blessings, I guess.
Okay.
I'm so grateful to her. Yeah.
This was in 2002, 3?
Oh gosh, 2003.
Maybe
something like that.
So my God, you were in the most wonderful place working here in Portugal. I still miss it so much. I imagine you miss it more than me, because I grew up watching the Ballet Gulbenkian, so it's something that I share. Yeah, I was blessed as people in my generation. I think I've said this already in every episode of this podcast.
Yes, I was blown away.
It's good to remember. Yeah, and
yes, I was really blown away.
I can imagine
walking in and to have the privilege of working, with these extraordinary dancers at the time. It was really, and what was incredible was there was no competition. It was really, you are good at that, and I'm good at this, and let's complement each other. Let's work together. There was a togetherness. Yeah, really, really nice.
It was a nice group of people, right? Not just the
humble,
dancers.
amazing people. Introducing me to Portuguese culture. I mean, it's just fantastic.
So, and when all these things happened, you still decided to stay with us, and obviously work with choreographers that you probably also met in Ballet Gulbenkian, right? Yes. Clara Andermatt, Paulo Ribeiro, Olga Ruiz. Yeah. So you have like a very large perspective of Portuguese contemporary dance, right?
Yes.
So how did this work for you? Like all of a sudden to be, of course, Ballet Gulbenkian was Portuguese contemporary scene, but still, like then you transition to this more really Portuguese style, let's say, dancing, right?
Yes.
Working with the Portuguese choreographers.
Yes, I mean, I guess I would say like I had the privilege, right, to be able to work with these iconic figures here in the Portuguese dance landscape.
That's a great designation.
Right, and they all have their own voices, and they're still working, in the field, pushing things, pushing boundaries. Olga just did her own solo. Also, Clara Andermatt just produced a video. I mean, there's still a lot happening, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, these renowned choreographers should have that, that space. But there's also an undercurrent of wonderful new choreographers, the next generation that's coming up. And so you have this lovely kind of tension between, what was and what's going to be. So without the past, right, into the present. So it's, I mean, I love going to watch shows here also, watching the works of, the more
But
renowned.
you also, I mean, not only you choreograph, which we will go to that. Well, we can go right now. First, what made you start to choreograph? And also you are now part of helping other generations to come forward, right? So this is also like a process of your work right now.
Yes. Well, thank you for saying that. I think it's somehow our duty also, right, to give back, and just kind of keep not the machine, but keep the kind of
the flow of ideas and
exactly.
the action of
and to make your life worthwhile,
yes, exactly.
right? To make your existence worth something, or give it some kind of real meaning. I think that's is the point. So when I was at Juilliard, my director was Benjamin Harcarvey. And he came up to me, I think it was in my third year, and said, Sylvia, I would really like you to think about choreographing. And I had never thought about, that responsibility, the responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's a great responsibility, really.
Totally, going into the studio and then, having somebody look at you and go, okay, now what?
Right? Yeah, then, I know. And also with other people's bodies,
right.
like to make them, also this, when is it too much? When is it too less?
Exactly.
Everybody's always pushing boundaries all the time.
Exactly. And so what are your communication skills? Do you have your own ideas? What are your own ideas? So I guess thanks to him, really just, giving me that nudge and that space also to make a duet with Chad. Oh my God, I haven't thought about it.
Do you have videos of this?
Oh God. I painted a painting. So he was the push. And then, whenever I could, again, like I said, in the freelance dance company, I was looking for, I guess, my own voice. And in Bern Ballet, young choreographers also, being able to play with, dancers, different types of dancers.
But at this time you knew that this was going to be part of your afterlife as after stop dancing or as you were dancing. So you knew at this time that choreography was part of who you are, your dance identity.
Well, maybe not consciously, but I think dancers are extremely multifaceted. I mean, first of all, our curiosity goes beyond ourselves, right? We are generous. We work with others constantly. So this relationship between giving and taking is always there. I try not to, I don't consider myself a choreographer. Maybe somebody who thinks about dance making or makes dances. Maybe I like to categorize myself there.
Yeah, I like you have this in your bio, like maker.
Yes.
I like that expression.
Yes.
Maker.
Although the terminology is kind of changing, it keeps shifting, right? But composing, right? The idea of being able to pattern movements.
Yeah, but maker also is more than, in my perspective, maker is also someone with action. Someone that has an action in whatever it is. Could be in the studio, could be as a teacher, could be as a, even as a person. Maker is something that defines who you are.
Right.
You're a maker. It doesn't matter what field or in what way, but you want to make things happen.
Exactly. And you're making things, right? So you have mental ideas, and then you're going to produce or present those to the world, right? Choreographing, or rather making dances, was always a really nice counterpoint to doing the dance, right? Because it gives you the other side. It makes you appreciate the process from the other side, also as you're inside. And throughout my career, I went from author work. So in my time, we did, Graham to get into the Graham Dance Company. We did Limon with the aim of getting into Limon Dance Company.
It was everything like
right?
this.
It was very linear progressions. And okay, I understand. But throughout my career, I had the privilege, again, of working with people who would ask me, so can you produce me something? Let's make something. I'm going to give you a phrase, and I'd like to see what you can do with it. So slowly but surely, I was introduced in this co-creative, collaborative process. So composing dances was always also from the perspective of being a
which is also like as you enjoy to co-create, right?
Yes.
You like to share that vibrance of making something with another person, which I think it's very hard.
Yes. And I do this out of respect for the dancer in front of me, because I know and I can understand the value of their work, right? They have an incredible amount of inherited knowledge and complex, patterns of movement within them. And of course, I'm limited to my own knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So there's a level of habits that's kind of travar, right? It puts the brakes sometimes. It depends a little bit on the situation that I'm with in terms of co-creating. With professional dancers, it's a very different thing than with students.
Yeah, of course, that are still more
that need,
that need more guidance in movement-wise, what to do next, right? Yeah. So tell me about this. So we spoke about dancing, becoming choreographing, coming to Portugal, and what about teacher? this also a natural transition to you to take your master in dance teaching to work with students, to choreograph to students as well, right?
Yes. Okay, so teaching. Again, I think it's complementary. The act of teaching teaches you what you don't know, right? So there's this kind of self-analytical, auto-critical process in teaching, which is very difficult. A huge challenge doing it well. Yeah, passing on to someone. I guess I can say, and I started quite young.
Teaching,
it's a big word, or passing information. But I started really when I was in Switzerland. But I think over time I feel more confident, I guess. I'm getting to know more what I'm looking for over time. So the practice of teaching itself makes you a better teacher, something like that.
No, I believe in that.
But yeah, they're all related.
So, but yes, it's all related, but also by being a choreographer or whatever, movement maker or whatever you prefer to. Sorry if I'm not saying the right thing. I'm just saying the word that people recognize, right? People recognize choreographer.
Yes, but it's such a broad. It has multiple interpretations.
A composer, a movement composer, or exactly. An idea. Sometimes a choreographer is just also actually the conductor of an idea. Right. Directing. Directing what's happening. But this for me, it's important because I think it does make a difference when you work with students and you are someone that also creates, right? So do you feel like this influences the way you are with the students and make them practice their practice?
Yes. So again, different contexts, different students, different needs, right? So well, first, a student is a human, right? So there's an inherent amount of creativity in each person, regardless of their experience. And then it's the stimulation. How can you stimulate somebody, motivate somebody to move using their physical bodies, and what makes them in the end also look good?
Yes,
right.
Within the technique, if you're teaching technique,
and how can you complement the body? I think that's the most challenging thing. No matter what, the level of experience that you have in front of you. But I'm old school this way, I guess. Students, especially young ones who don't have much experience, still need to have access to different approaches to movement. And asking somebody who does not have much experience to try different things, you get very often visceral reactions.
So they need the words to be able to talk. That's what you're saying, right? If we can make this comparison, they need to know the language so that then they can be more creative.
Right.
And also that comes from your experience and your training as well, right?
I mean, you have so creativity in many different ways. It can be physical gesturing, but it can also be mental imagery, right? So again, what kind of work are you looking for? What do the students need? How can you help them grow?
And what is the outcome really that they are looking for, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes in a class you have people with different ideas of how they're going to use what's
sure, absolutely,
what you're giving, right?
Yes, the individuality of each, absolutely. How can you complement that, but yet create kind of a cohesive, right? A voice, a theme, right? That's there.
And with the whole class.
Yes.
So this brings me to the most exciting part of our conversation, the part that I was really excited to talk about, which is your research, your current research, in a time where we just talk about AI all the time and how it can take over the creative processes or may take over the creative process. But this your research is more than this, right? It's very scientific. I was trying to do my best to also have this conversation with you. So recently I'm going to read from my notes so that I don't make any mistakes. You co-authored the article Generative AI, Decision Making and Collaborative Choreography, where LSTM neural networks, which goes for long short-term memory, used in machine learning to recognize and generate sequences over time, right? Sorry if I'm being so. So you use this was used to generate movement based on your own body logic method, right? And more recently, this is also very exciting, it's going to evolve to a documentary titled Bodily Futures. So please, let's start with letting us all know what is Body Logic Method and how you got to this research.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing this up. Okay, so Body Logic Method. Okay, so
in a way that we can all understand.
No, it's no. I think that all dancers have a method. Okay. This is basically what I want to try to say. And we all have an approach to the way that we learn. We have inherited patterns, right, that we have learned through different teachers, different schools, different companies. And we have acquired them, which means that we've made them our own, right?
But conscious or unconscious?
Well, everything requires a certain amount of consciousness, right? Because it's a deliberate practice. You're thinking about what you're doing. It's cognitive. You're present, you're in the room, you're aware of the changes that are happening. And so dancers are extremely auto-reflexive, right? Autocritical also, right? We think about how can we optimize our way of working? How can we stay within the realm of the creative process and the needs of the choreographers? How can we adapt? So we do a lot of, really complex things. And so we create this identity, this filtering system, which I like to call the body logic.
Okay.
So a dancer will work with you, for example, a choreographer, and says, Solange, I would like you to try this. And then you'll try and apply the sequence of movement. And you're going to do so following your own body logic, which is a reflection of everything you know,
you learn,
everything you like, your personal preference, your culture, and the way that your body has organized itself. So the output is a direct reflection of your own body logic. So you have your body logic.
Okay, so it's an identity, really.
Well, it's a filtering system, right? Input comes in, it filters through how it's your sense making, right? I'm going to try it this way, I can fit it into this, and now I can produce that. So there's this osmotic kind of relationship, and this filtering process can change. It alters in quality. The more knowledge you have, the greater the quality of your body logic. And so the method, but I think we all have a method. All dancers have a method, a way of working that is meaningful to them. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to really look at it, to say, right, how do I approach movement? What is my own choreographic process or dance making process? How am I moving? How am I organizing my movement, right? So, and why this? Because as I was collaborating with different choreographers and often asked to make my own movement or making movement for myself, I came across, limitations in my own habits. And I realized I was doing certain things and I like to do certain things, but how can I move away? How can I shift?
So you were following like a sequence, like a kind of a sequence.
My own logic.
Your own logic, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you start to recognize patterns that you have, that are in your body, that you recognize, that you like also. There's nothing bad about it. It's a celebration of everything you know. But well, can I try to find distractions, right? How can I create mental distractions to be able to liberate myself from the familiar practices? So the method, it's a big word, it's basically a prototype or a way of organizing what it is that I was doing, which was one way of relating to the other. So as dancers we relate to the other, but we also relate to the self. So I have two different kind of approaches to making movement by using these cognitive tasks. So in 2018, I was invited into an interdisciplinary project here in Lisbon under the leadership of Carla Fernandes, who introduced me to a group of scientists. And she asked me, right, would like to really look at you, the way that you're working into familiar, unfamiliar practice. So I thought, brilliant, this is really the place to kind of explore and maybe put on paper, name it, right? Name it. What are you doing, Sylvia? And call it something. And so the body logics was an obvious one, and then turning it into a method, which basically means just categorizing it, right? That's basically what it means. And so I met a wonderful cognitive linguist, Vito Evola, and a computer scientist, also Claudia Civives, both of whom I'm still working with, and other scientists also within the project who have been an enormous help. And I was able to look at it more carefully from a different perspective, call it something, recognize it, question it, have the time to talk about it. And so this approach to movement was named into the body logic method, and based on the practices and the question that I had.
And how does AI becomes part of your research?
So back then in 2018, I started doing multimodal research work, so I would have access to technology. And I used VR to augment a score. I was interested in, at the time, so deviations, right? Negotiating deliberate choice making. So as a dancer, you will go and you'll make a particular choice, and you go over there, you make another choice, and you choose. So you're
like
active.
Improvisation.
Exactly, you're participating in the work that you're producing, even if it's improvised. Improvised is still directed, right? Yes. In some ways. And so with VR and with a treatise by Cornelius Cardew that I found, which is a graphic music score specially designed for musicians to think outside of the box, which I absolutely love, putting that in VR and giving the dancers an immersive experience. So looking for other ways of thinking about.
So the dancers would have the VR glasses, yes, and dance with the VR.
So in this case, we placed the graphic music score within the immersive environment, within VR, and then the dancers would be able to approach that from a multi-sensory perspective, right?
So it was more a self-experience than an audience experience, right?
Absolutely. VR has a way of kind of closing in the space into oneself almost, although it's spatially organized. But I was looking for other ways that we could practice making dances. And so I had wonderful dancers that I worked with, and they were able to also give me the feedback that I needed. And that I was looking for. Alan Farieri was one of them, Teresa Alves de Silva, Elson Ferreira. So beautiful dancers with careers, who could give me really constructive feedback about what they thought and what they didn't think was working for them. After that, I was in another research project also, where I could look at digital dance. I was looking at air, the glitch, right? So different ways of imagining the dancing body within a digital space that doesn't need gravity, right? So it kind of changes the perspective of the way that we view the body and the way that it organizes itself. And then AI was, in 2023, ChatGPT was fresh off. I think it came out in November of 22. It was the early months, and I was playing around with ChatGPT, and I thought, my gosh, this could be a fabulous tool, to make or kind of create choreographic ideas or dance composition ideas that could distract the mind, right? So I was with Claudia Savivas. Together we were at the CCL lab of Motion Bank. And we started to play around with, ChatGPT. How can we put that into a kind of an idea, a choreographic approach? So AI was then, a hot topic related to ChatGPT. So that's kind of how it came about.
Okay, but how do you use the AI in the research, or you don't?
So AI. Okay, so we thought, right, it can be a tool. Again, it's a tool to find other ways of organizing the body. So yes, we do a version of AI. Specifically, we're using LSTM models, which basically, it's a deep learning system, right?
So it recognizes the movements of the dancers and it storages the memory of those movements.
Right, so it's you give input, right? So like any deep learning thing, or machine learning process, you give it data.
But you give the data, or the dancing bodies give the data?
So we had in this particular project, again, I had wonderful dancers, and I would ask them to give input, so direct input that we then recorded. But before I did that, I needed them to focus on one particular way of approaching movement so that it makes, research sense also. So the BLM was used, the body logic method was used, and in particular, different qualities of movement. I think choreography today is becoming more dynamic, more colorful in terms of movement dynamics, right? So they learned certain patterns or ways of thinking about movement that challenge their own habit before we did the actual input. So there were multiple processes here. And the main question was, okay, can we use AI as a tool to distract the dancer, to make them think about their own habits or to reflect their own habits so that they could kind of think about maybe alternative ways or alternative choices.
So that's a way to, well, it does have an input on the creative process because the dancer is going to change the way that he's used to do, or is going to have guidance pre-doing the choreography, right?
Well, so we needed data input that was more or less objective. Every dancer approaches the tasks differently, and that's wonderful. We have to support and celebrate individuality, absolutely. And also celebrate what they already know. It's not that I want to take away what they already know. I want to say, look, this is what you know.
You want a challenge to do.
It's your fundamental base, but perhaps you can deviate that choice into another choice, change your sequential movement patterns. And so the dancers were super curious. We took some time. We filmed
I am very curious.
I
would
it
love
was
to...
so interesting. So they themselves authored their work, right, through the instructions of BLM that we gave, and then the machine learned it. And what's wonderful about this LSTM model is that it recognizes patterns, but then it deviates somehow. It has a place of error where it kind of glitches, and then it predicts
what comes next.
That's right. And so that's where the generative AI comes in, right? That's where it generates the possible. But if you think about human beings, as dancers, we spend an enormous amount of time memorizing patterns. Our memory bank is huge.
Yes.
Right? And the more information we have, the higher the quality of our information. I mean, we can generate and kind of predict what comes next.
But do you think in the future, would it be able to do the whole sequence, to make the whole sequence? If I put Sylvia's data and I say, like, can you make a full piece with this idea with Sylvia's way of moving?
Well, I mean, Wayne McGregor has done incredible work in AI Living Archive. I mean, he's, Bill T. Jones also is working with AI systems. I mean, it's already quite developed.
But will we use it?
Well, it's
not just as research. Will actually choreographers use it?
So that's a very ethical question.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very, very challenging, but it is already out there, right? So I was. A few months ago, I was at Cambridge, and I was invited to participate in a discussion group about the future of art in the age of AI. And it's a difficult one. And one of the ideas was, well, if it is there, and as a researcher, we kind of have to see if it works or doesn't work. Can it function? Can it not function?
So we have to test it first.
It will never, in my mind, replace the awesomeness of the human dancer. I mean, the human dancer, is the real
deal.
Yes, I mean, I want to say, the real proof of what dance is, right? Which has to do with a living body, and it has to do with embodiment, and extended embodiment, and
more with artistry, and that is. I mean, maybe a machine will be able to.
Yes, that's also now, coming into really.
Yes, it's something that we should think about. Actually, in a way, I always felt dance was safer, because it's so much about your body and how the way you express what you're doing, not just with your body, but with yourself, right?
Yes. That
it would be much harder to do something to replace. But I'm not sure anymore.
Well, I can speak for myself. I don't want to replace. So in this very small, low budget, research project, it's really the human.
No. I know what you're doing.
Back to the human,
it's just that we always think, as we're also dreamers, of the next stage. What about what would like Einstein also did something very, for physics, and then later on he found out that his discovery was something, because we're also thinking, what about after?
Yes.
And obviously we can't stop it. because it's out there, as you say, right?
But we should definitely think about the ethical approaches of authorship, but also the enormous ecological imprint that AI is actually using. I mean, these server systems are huge, right? The computational
the
power
energy
for it is huge. The water use that's necessary to cool these systems are huge. I mean, it's and right now it's completely out in the open because it's still in its initial stages, but I hope that's slowly but surely some laws can kind of control
and this is the good thing. I think in some ways the humankind did learn something about it, like every time there's some breakthrough discovery, we start to think about what is going to be the impact, right? When people made automobiles or found that oil was such an incredible way of making energy, they didn't think about that. So now we can always think about the next stage and how to make it better. So I think that's the good thing, right? I would love to chat with you for longer because it's really has been a wonderful conversation. I just want you to give me, or for our listeners, something that you consider will help, future dancers, students, especially now you're going so much ahead in time in what dance will mean. If you have a very good word of advice for them.
Definitely explore your ideas, see what's out there. I want to say try out the tools, but make sure that you're aware of how you're trying out these tools. Yes, with consciousness, every prompt that you click in, is an enormous amount of computational power. But with AI or without it, or with technology or without, technology, I think find people that you connect with, that speak your language, that also don't, right? Find people in other fields, in other domains also that can question what you do from a different perspective. And that can kind of push your way of thinking. I mean, dance, it's so broad. And in terms of dance research, I mean, there's neuroscience, right? There's philosophy, and there are, institutions also here in Portugal that are interested in, collaborating
in that kind of collaboration,
and looking at the way that dancers are thinking and doing their incredible things.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. This was just a great pleasure. And I wish all the best for you, for your research, and for your wonderful work.
Obrigada. Obrigada so much.
O episódio de hoje do Dança em Diálogos chega ao fim, trazendo mais uma perspectiva, mais um percurso, mais uma reflexão sobre a dança. Já sabem, estão todos convidados a seguir o podcast Dança em Diálogos nas nossas redes sociais, a partilhar os episódios e a deixar a vossa opinião ou sugestões para temas futuros. Para estar sempre informado sobre os novos episódios e atividades, podem subscrever o nosso canal no YouTube e no Spotify. Além disso, está disponível a nossa newsletter em ddialogos.com, onde podem conhecer melhor a Dança em Diálogos e todos os seus projetos e dimensões. A Dança em Diálogos é uma plataforma de criação, produção e programação em dança, com um enfoque particular em projetos de mediação e participação de e com diferentes públicos e comunidades. No próximo episódio, vamos continuar, claro, com mais dança e mais diálogos. Eu sou a Solange Mel e espero voltar a estar convosco em breve.